So my concern is on the tariffs. Who pays tariffs, Mr. Secretary?
Since January or February, we're running in negative territory. We're at a certain point, we're going to just run out of money and the government is going to freeze up, right? What are the chances that we run all the way to, I guess, the end of this month or maybe the end of next month at the worst? We're already operating, and I'm surprised the media hasn't been talking about this like they have during budget crises in the past. But my recollection is that since January or February, we're running in negative territory. The government funding has expired, and they're moving money around in the Treasury Department to make sure that the bills get paid. And at a certain point, we're going to just run out of money, and the government is going to freeze up, right?
Yeah, and this is where the president's marionette, the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary Bessent, has to make that call. And, when he was asked yesterday in a committee I serve on, he gave quite a bit of tap dancing as an answer because they don't know, because they're trying to get this bill done, which they could then lift the debt ceiling with the bill. But so far, they're not close to having resolution. So I think they'll play a lot of accounting tricks along the way.
Well, and that video of you interviewing Scott Bessent has gone completely viral, where you repeatedly asked him who pays for tariffs. You want to tell us how he answered?
Yeah. So, honestly, Tom, I wanted to get to other questions about tariffs. I thought that was the simple one, and the simple one stumped him, and he didn't want to answer who pays for tariffs because ultimately we all know who does. We do. Consumers do. Yes, an importer technically, but that cost gets passed on and we all pay for tariffs. But he doesn't want to admit that, as much as Donald Trump actually did. I mean, Donald Trump proved his affection for North Korea when he started rationing dolls and pencils, right? Saying that that's probably what's going to happen because of tariffs. He's finally admitting we're going to pay more, but I don't think the American people signed up to pay more so that Donald Trump can kind of throw these tariffs around indiscriminately without a plan. So I think, the secretary, who is a very smart man, rather than lying in front of Congress, just gave his answer because he can't say the truth, which is we as consumers pay Trump's tariffs. They're a tax on us.
Right. And they're basically paid for. I mean, in fact, they are paid for by the companies that do the importing, not by the companies that do the exporting. So,
so no country. Remember when Trump said China would pay for it? No, of course not. That's about as idiotic as saying Canada's going to become the 51st state. It's not going to happen.
No, it's going to be Mattel and, last question. Don Bacon has, this started last week where he spoke out against the tariffs and then the next day said, maybe I won't run for re-election. I think, maybe Elon Musk called him up and said, okay, there's a target on your back now. Do you think that we're starting to see Republicans peel off from Trump? And is there any possibility that over the next, over the near term or even the long term, we've got 4 years of this nonsense, or at least a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half until the midterms, that you might see 3 or 4 or 5 Republicans basically defect in the House or maybe even in the Senate and join Democrats in the way that they're voting? And could that change leadership in the House? Or am I just dreaming?
If you won by less than 10 points and you are concerned about being reelected, you should be concerned about what they're doing right now because their agenda is not popular. And people haven't felt the cuts yet in many cases because they haven't happened. We're feeling the extra cost because of tariffs, but not the cuts. But when people feel those, the price to be paid is even more. So I think, Representative Bacon just is understanding what his crystal ball says is that, he's not likely to get reelected if they pass this agenda. And he's kind of speaking out, but, not nearly enough. But I think a lot more members are going to realize their political futures are going to take a crash dive based on what they're going to try to do in the next month or two.
Wow, the next month or two. It's an interesting time to be alive, as the old saying goes.
And interesting, that's a Chinese curse, they always say, right? And here we are with tariffs in China. Go figure.
There you go. The irony is perfect.
Parody.